Good afternoon and welcome to Martini's Eco Bites. Today we have an incredible episode here, which I call the Kalbarri Cluster F of Green Renewables. Have some amazing guests that are locals from the Kalbarri area. We are welcoming today Mick Mack and Paul Sharkey Clark. Thanks for coming, guys, and joining me today.
No worries.
Thank you, Martine, for having us.
Beautiful. Well, I know that we've had some lovely discussions in person and over the phone many times, but today it's great to put this onto a different platform and to make this available to a lot more people in the regional areas that are outside of Kalbarri, as well as our Perth comrades here. And it goes across all of Australia and it syndicates to the US. So it gets shared everywhere and it's a common denominator with a lot of issues that are going on with green renewables. Guys, if you'd like to maybe introduce yourself, Mick first, and then Sharky, if you'd like to introduce yourselves and maybe have a bit of a chat about beautiful Kalbarri.
I'll give you a rundown of sort of my story real quick. So, met a girl, went travelling, found Kalbarri, fell in love with Kalbarri, fell in love with girl, had children, and still here to this day and still love the place to death and do not want to see it destroyed by a Dutch company that just think that they can just come in and walk all over us. I think it's just madness.
Well, you know, when you're coming up with a whole bunch of Danish and other foreign corporations that are coming in here and trying to destroy our oceans, it's going to pretty much arc most people up that have that connection to the ocean. Sharky, what about you, my friend? What would you like to share just as your backstory a little bit for everyone?
Yeah, I've had about 45 years experience in the crayfish industry as a professional fisherman, lobster fisherman. So been in the thick of it, I guess, in the oceans. I've fished from Cape Naturalist, Cape Lewin in the south, all the way up to Quabba, north of Carnarvon. I've fished all that zone where they're, that area north of Kalbarri where they're proposing this hydrogen ammonia plant. So, yeah, keen surfer, love the ocean and wouldn't like to see it destroyed, that's for sure.
No,
Which this seems to be the plan of the Labor and the Greens to destroy our oceans and our farmlands and everything.
You know, and it's a real slasher episode to our culture as far as I'm concerned, because the thing is that Aussies are a pretty laid back bunch until you rile us up, and then once you do that, you've got problems, because we're no longer going to sit back and allow people to come in and destroy our culture and our land, our oceans. For those that have never been to Kalbarri, Kalbarri is on the midwest coast of Western Australia. So it's above Geraldton, but just underneath where Shark Bay is. It's a beautiful natural harbour. I have to admit, it's just spectacular. I had only been to Kalbarri myself just this year, embarrassingly. It's true. I was supposed to go twice, and both times I was meant to go previously. We had issues going on and we couldn't come. And now Kalbarri is in my blood. And in honour of unification and us coming together as a whole community in Western Australia, and we're in green today because it's the only thing green we're going to be really talking about. So let's kick off, you know me with my SAS boys. As I've called it, it's the Kalbarri Cluster F. And I think when it comes to the renewable side of things, I don't think that Kalbarri, any other area could really put it under the spotlight, the insanity that's planned for such fragile but rare ecosystems. So I'm going to go to the first slide that we've got here,
out?
and that's
yeah.
Did you drop out?
Yeah, dropping out a bit.
Might be your network there, Mick.
Mine's
to see how
good.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's your network, Mick. Especially if you've got any metal roofs, that really does interfere terribly. Okay, let's see how we go. For picture number 1, we're going to go to pick 1 here. And this is where we've got a bit of a breakdown of Kalbarri and where things are, some history, and the fact that this is a bit of a breakdown for those at home that can read this. This is talking about how Kalbarri is predominantly a fishing town, a tourist town. And of course, Sharky has just given his background of 45 years experience in the rock lobster industry. And Mick fell in love with the place because he's a hardcore surfer and loves the wildness of that country out there. And that's what we want to keep. Because tourists come and flock to that area because of the natural and wild environment. So you guys won Tiny Town Award of the Year this year for a tourism award, correct?
Yeah, must have blew the rubbish away with the winds and the swells. But yeah, it is very much a tourist town, and that's what keeps the town going, you know. Of course, we got the fishing as well, and it's most important to keep it that way and not destroy it with heavy industry.
Yeah. Absolutely not.
Beautiful
and when you talk about heavy industry, and the wildness of this is what people
like nowhere
underestimate.
else on the planet, really.
Yeah, absolutely, Mick. I think that unless you've been to a place like Kalbarri.
Are you getting dropouts too?
No, I'm all good. Come around my joint if you want, if that's a good idea.
All right. Well, I'm just getting dropouts here. That what Martini? I couldn't understand any of it.
Just drop out and go and join Sharky next to him on the couch. Go and sit next to Sharky.
You can come around here if you want.
I might have to, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll
continue,
Sharky
mate.
Must have a
Come back on.
Connection with me because this is.
I've got a good connection.
Yeah. Martine's dropping out. I can't understand her.
Okay.
It's like coming through like pixelated.
I'll take over while you come around or find a better spot.
All right, let's continue, Sharky. I know that you've got this, my friend. So we know it's a tourist town. You guys won an award for it this year, and that's the thing that all the locals that I've spoken to say that they want to keep that integrity to that natural, wild, and very unique environment. And as wild as it is, it's also really fragile, that balance. You guys only survived really a horrific cyclone. What was it, 4 years ago now?
Yeah, I think so. The ridiculous nature of this, the position where they're trying to build this. Like I've fished up and down the coast, and this is perhaps the heaviest bit of coast going for swell and wind. And it seems, and even the nature of the landscape, it's just a ridiculous place to even dream about building such a monstrosity that is untried, unproven. You know, it's experimental, and you're experimenting with the environment, and a pristine area such as this is just madness.
Maybe we can go to picture 2, and that's the skywalk. And this is kind of what we're talking about. People flock to this area because there really is no other place like it. And the fact that so much has been invested to make this as an international destination. There's a skywalk there, and behind that, on that escarpment, just across the Murchison River, is going to be where the hundreds of wind turbines are going to start in that zone. If we go to pick 3, we'll see there the layout of that project and the enormity of it. And like you said, Sharky, it is like an experiment, and because it's been put in an area where people think that you're an isolated community, you don't have the numbers to push back. They're kind of wrong, because what these organizations, these corporations that come in from foreign nations think is that we're going to be a pushover. that we don't have the money, we don't have the resources to come together to make sure that we've got the facts, the science, and get the community well educated. And that's where they've made a huge error. So going to pick 3 now. This is the project overview. So we've got here the different aspects of what's laid out here. So we've got an offshore wind turbine zone. We've got an onshore wind turbine zone. We've got a desalination plant. We've got a huge electrovoltaic solar. I'm not going to call it a farm because it's a solar factory of extraction of EV. And it's a liquefied green hydrogen or ammonia plant there. And so the only reason why this is called green ammonia is because they're saying it's a great thing for the environment, but they're only getting the tick of approval is because they're saying that the wind turbines and the solar energy is a green renewable. So it's like carbon offsetting.
Ridiculous.
Which is absolute garbage.
It's destroy the environment to be green. It's just makes no sense, you know. And
it really doesn't.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. And they wouldn't even be here apart from the incentives given by the government, our present government in power, and they wouldn't even go ahead, you know. They wouldn't be here apart from our money, the taxpayers' money, you know.
I think that's where we say that's the mic drop part there, Sharky. That that if it wasn't for taxpayers fully putting forward all the grants money for hydrogen plants and all the other green renewables grants and the subsidies coming from taxpayers, if it wasn't for the Australian people footing the bill for all of this, because the thing is, what we do realise, and people are starting to wake up to, if these companies had 2 pennies to rub together and this was viable, they would have got this up off the ground and it would have been seen to be exactly what they projected or claimed to be. But it's not.
On their own back, but they need the taxpayers' money and the government to subsidise it and make it possible. And it just seems ridiculous that a lot of these things don't last very long. You know, that's why they're called renewables, because they've got to be renewed all the time. And there's no long-term positive energy there.
No.
And it's unreliable energy at the best.
Yeah. Intermittent energy that, you know, let's go back that 4 years ago when you had that horrific cyclone that came through that has had such a lasting effect. So most people may not be aware, but the population was over 4,000 people in Kalbarri at the time, and now it's gone down to about 1,500 after that cyclone. So that has had a catastrophic event, ongoing event effect, of the whole community. The community's still trying to repair itself from that. And instead of the government coming in and helping out the community and saying, hey, look, let's get more tourism, let's get more people back into the community with this really grassroots sustainable local business, what we're going to do is bring in foreign corporations to come in and set up a whole conglomerate of so-called green renewable projects all tied together. And
this is,
the one, sorry, what's that?
This is Labor and green policy, energy policy that is really going to destroy our whole country. Whether it's the farmlands, the oceans, fishing industry, farming communities, you know, it's just absolute destruction waiting to happen. Not,
and it's devastating. It's devastating to think that something so beautiful could be destroyed for the sake of
all them beautiful animals out there, and seabirds, whales, you name it. It's just going to destroy their habitat and could destroy the whole fragile ecosystem.
Yeah. We're going to go to picture number 4 right now, and that's where it sort of illustrates the whole connectedness of this area. So as we can see on this illustration, it shows the above map is the area that the project, the Murchison Green Hydrogen, who is CIP, which is Copenhagen Infrastructure Partners, they are here trying to get agreement with the locals that they're going to go onto that land and put this project together. Underneath, that's the whole footprint above and how close it is to the township, and as well as the national park, as well as Murchison River. And then it sits over the top of a massive, big, pure water aquifer. And then offshore, we've got that. Offshore, we've got this massive offshore wind turbine zone.
Yeah. Oh, it's unbelievable. Just the destruction and to lock it, the way they're going with the marine parks, offshore wind turbines, they're going to lock us out of the ocean, basically, destroy all our fishing industry, and even to the point where we won't even be able to swim, surf in certain areas, catch a fish for the dinner table, and just goes on and on. You just can't believe the stupidity of it.
And as you mentioned before, these are all of these agreements that we signed up with Goa, as well as this net zero garbage, which is hysteria on climate change. And you're right there, Sharky, that we've been signed up to something that Australians never actually put their hand up for. Everyday Australians now seeing how much it's costing us. So it sounds like Mick's arrived there.
It's arrived nearly through the window.
he makes a lasting impression, that's for sure. Come take a seat,
Anyway,
Mick. Don't you touch yourself.
Yeah,
so
no,
we've got.
Right.
Good. I'm glad he's not concussed.
He bounced off.
So the offshore wind turbine area and the onshore. I mean, we're talking about massive amounts of area and escarpment that's going to either be ground down or exploded to be able to put those footings on. Is that correct, Mick?
You there,
and
Mick?
Sharky?
So I'm backstage at the moment. Everyone can see me now. Yep.
No, if you put your volume, on, it's going to have a feedback. So you need to sit next to Sharky.
Okay, cool.
Well, you can sit here next to me if you want.
Yeah, I'll just come.
Is that better?
So I'll turn this one off then, eh? Yeah.
Turn it off if you want.
Yeah, turn it off.
Anyway, it's such a fragile area, and it'll go the other way. Well, back onto the heritage, Shark Bay Heritage Area. So this is how ridiculous it is. 1 minute you've got a heritage area to the north, and then you've got this beautiful, pristine area that should be a heritage area, and now talking about building a hydrogen plant there, or ammonia plant.
The one thing that hasn't been discussed is that they're only just sort of starting to bring into the picture now is the storyline that goes from Shark Bay to here that connects the Murchison people and all that sort of stuff. They're only just sort of starting to touch on that now. And, I mean, it's obvious that tract of land that they would have been not farming it for thousands of years, but it would be like a gateway, and knowing that there's fresh water accessible the whole way down through that section of coastline. And these people know that. They're not stupid,
So is there any concerns that also where this area that they're going to industrialise there is got burial other sacred sites on there as well?
All over it. All over it. That whole, the Nanda and the Shark Bay mob would have been interacting for thousands and thousands of years. So the amount of stuff that is going on that we know nothing about, that they're sort of, I suppose they hold it highly regard, so they don't share that sort of stuff quite easily, So that's the tricky part about it, is that you're touching on
sacred stuff.
Sacred, really sacred stuff. So that's why we got to be careful too, how we approach it too. I've got a bit of blackfella in me, but it still doesn't give me any right to try and intervene in their business. You know what I mean? Like, even though I feel strongly connected to it, it's it doesn't give me right of passage to say, look, this is wrong. You guys, should adhere to what we're saying.
You're nailing it here, Mick, where you're talking about there seems to be non-stop divisiveness that's going on with these corporations and this agenda that comes in to separate us, regardless of, I mean, like I said, until I went up to Kalbarri, and I've been up there a few times now, but it got into my blood. It's like I felt as passionate about it as the locals.
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a real warming sort of feeling.
It'd be terribly upsetting to lose our little town to heavy industry like that. And in fact, on a northerly breeze, we'd probably be smelling it.
We'd be smelling it right now, Shark.
Smelling it in our houses. And
Shark is totally exposed to it.
What sort of tourist town, fishing town? And another thing, where they proposed to build the whole thing is some of the best crayfish ground on the whole coast. So they,
fishing and diving, and
so maybe we can touch on that. We've got image 10 here, and it shows where you guys are in the rock lobster zones, and it gives a great picture of sort of the diversity and range of the WA rock lobster. So with picture number 10, we're coming up now. That's it here. So you guys there are in zone B, is that correct?
B, yeah.
So looking at this zone, and we of course, I'm down in the Geograph Bay area, which is still rock lobster. We have same issues down here. But you guys up there, not only is it a cranking Lewin current that comes swinging around that Exmouth Cape, as well as down through Shark Bay, but as it comes past you guys, I've heard not only the swell is insane some days there, so how could they moor an offshore mooring to have this liquefied green ammonia, which we'll talk about in a minute, but it's such vital habitat, that whole area. And with that Lewin current, the effect that it has the whole way down the WA coastline is vital to the rock lobster industry. Not just that, but the entire biodiversity of this coral reef system that comes the whole way down the WA coastline.
Yeah, it's something you don't want to gamble with or interrupt. It's such a sensitive thing, our oceans and the creatures, all the way to the algae, to the whale. Yeah. Basically, it's just accident waiting to happen. It's just destruction.
Image 9, if we can bring up image 9 now, and keep talking about that with the whales, because that's something that you guys are very familiar with out there.
Well, the whales come in very close here too, so they'll be going right through that ship where the moorings for the ship.
Yeah.
And
they'll have to divert probably 100 k's or so. Probably to.
And the thing is, with offshore wind turbines, they know that the infrasound that's present there affects the low frequency between mothers and babies. And of course, babies are being born down in Geograph Bay and are migrating all the way past you guys up there. How on earth are they going to be able to navigate and sustain healthy populations if we're already always encroaching on their zones?
What happened to save the whales, Martine?
Yeah, I mean, it's a major tourism attraction too, with the whales and everything.
Huge tourist attraction.
Massive,
We've got an example right here. We know that the humpies are renowned. Unfortunately, that poor gentleman that he got in the middle of a bit of a migration situation there a few months back. Bless his soul. Hope he's fully recovered.
He's surfing again now, so that's good news.
Oh, Good news.
Yeah.
But that there was
Shout
the
out to
image
Ryan
of
and John.
the blue pygmy whale. Now, the blue pygmy whale is one of the most endangered whales, and it's highly, highly protected. So the thing is that we have so many measures in place to protect all of these beautiful beings that's their habitat, right? And then we talked
It's gone out
about
the door,
marpole.
Martine.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
can just
So how is
change the
it?
goalposts every time.
Doesn't suit them
Yeah.
now to look after the whales. We'll just build offshore wind turbines everywhere.
And try and call that a tourist attraction, shall we? Yeah, let's make that spin. That swindle will be, it's a tourist attraction.
Can you imagine it?
Destruction is huge. People think of a wind turbine just appearing magically.
Yeah.
Whereas the amount of work that goes into it, and to build anything on our coast from here down to Cape Lewin is just, it's fraught with heavy winds, swells. It's just
some of the heaviest.
The expense to actually build it, the destruction to build it, it's just defies sense. It's just
common sense.
And the thing is that liquefied green, hydrogen and green ammonia is highly, highly deadly toxic. So it only takes 1 part per million to start to kill an aquatic system. So we've discussed this before, that when you're piping off through the water through some pipes that you're putting full that reliability onto that aren't going to fail. But we do know that there's a common leakage that goes up to 20% of leakage, but it's known at 2.6 to 6% that leaks out of pipes.
Yeah.
Deadly.
And it's never been done at these volumes that they're talking about. They want to do the largest plant in the world. The largest plant on our doorstep, right here.
Experimenting on our doorstep with our
20
environment.
k's away.
Now, could you imagine?
We end up 14 k's because, very close.
I put this to other fishermen and rock lobster. I said, could you imagine the Lewin Current is absolutely cranking and they have a minor spill?
Yeah.
Well,
imagine the zone that the whole area down the west coast that would be affecting.
Yeah. So ammonia is heavier than air, remember? So what if they get a spill on land, then that will gradually move towards the merchants. It's only got to travel 14 k's. That's not very much in the term of if there's a slight wind behind it, it will move rather quickly. And then it goes into the river.
Well, you got the currents, of course.
Yep. And then the currents carry it.
It's a highly corrosive. It's so highly corrosive. And you're already suggesting it leaks as it is. So it's just ridiculous they're even attempting it in our pristine waters.
Yeah. And you can see
what I don't comprehend is that marpole, as you guys would know, especially you, Sharky, I talked to Adrian Lippy about marpole and how they have such strict laws against what impact you can have on the ocean, and how we could allow such a toxic substance to be piped out through the ocean to a mooring platform where it's going to be put onto a ship and expect there's not going to be any leakage.
Yeah. And remember, it's there permanently too. They're not just going to put it up for 6 weeks, a year or something. This is built. This is a permanent structure.
Ship after ship
for our lifetimes and for our kids'
going
lifetimes,
overseas.
Kids' lifetimes.
Not for us.
You guys know where it's going in that mooring, right? What is the swell like up there?
Roughly. Oh, terrific.
Probably the biggest swell on the coast.
Yeah.
So would it be like 6 meters more?
Oh, it changes when it's small anywhere.
Yeah, it's double the size.
It's double, triple, possibly.
So 2 meters would mean
just
4.5 meters. Up there,
It's a real.
So the way the swells come in, there's nothing sort of that actually stops it. Whereas when we're at Jake's,
a bit like Margaret River area and that, where it's just exposed to the shelf, really, and just the swell pushes in there.
Well, Steep Point, remember, is the most westerly point of Australia, so You know,
wow.
of course it's going to get.
This is where I just look, the proponents and those people that are here to do a money grab on behalf of the Australian taxpayers, thanks to our government that's made this available. This is the thing that they don't comprehend, is that the long-term impact, the devastation that this is going to cause. The thing is that they want access to that aquifer. Is that correct? They want access to that aquifer under the proposed area?
Yeah. So I was just told, right, that they're out there and they have picked drill hole sites, right? And I know for a fact that they were told that every site that they wanted to drill, they were told by the TOs, nah, you can't drill there. Sorry. Sacred site, you know. So
wow.
You know, let's just hope that
will stop them.
Yeah, and you know, and I do personally know, you know, some TOs, traditional owners that that will not sign that piece of paper, you know, and they've only just been offered 30 mil. They had 6 mil on the table before. Now it's 30 mil. That's a total insult.
So this is the thing.
You know?
Where's this money coming from? Because there's a lot of promise of money
from the
kickbacks.
taxpayer.
I mean, I'm sure that there's a smooze. I know there's a lot of schmoozing going up there with the community. That's the word that's been used online a lot of schmoozing going on.
Yeah.
So the thing is that if they could lock this deal in, because they actually already have the money, they would be able to do that. But each time they promise to just get that signature on the dotted line, what they're doing is that they're going to secure the grant money that then will be passed on as that to be an offering or some kind of financial retribution or whatever you want to call it, right?
To buy
what, 30 mil a year? Is that, you know, I mean, what's the figure that, you know?
What's it worth to lose your environment? The fishing industry, the tourist industry, their the country up
connection
there
to the land, you know.
It's just huge. The magnitude of this, as you're saying, the size of it.
Oh, the size is
just—it's just massive. I don't know.
It's unbelievable. It goes all the way out to the highway. You know, like Callum's just given up that massive tract of land. You know, that was about to, remember we spoke about the pastoral and the rural? So he knew that was coming, so he had to act somewhere, you know, and there was a few stakeholders in the, you know, in the original sort of like fossicking, so to speak, you know, what can we do with this land? What's here, you know? And originally there was a couple that found chalk out there that figured, okay, chalk, so there must be gold, you know, so it's just, you know, it all comes back to money and greed, you know, and these stakeholders that are, you know, all sitting at bay now that are ready for the grab, you know, so they think that they can just walk over and that the locals here will just sort of let it happen, you know, but I think
the one thing that concerns me is when I was up there last and when we talked last, Sharky, is that this is obviously before, I think about a week later, 2 weeks later, you had massive rains that changed quite a bit of that. However, what we saw and what we discussed was that there was magnesium flakes appearing on the lawns after the retic was coming on in the morning, which is suggesting that the aquifer level, the water level from the bores in town had dropped. Now, knowing how arid it is up there and knowing that any kind of, we call it like climate change hysteria, but just we're talking about weather pattern changes. I mean, Indigenous cultures will say that. I hear it from farmers. I hear it from people that have been on the land for 5, 6, 7 generations are saying the same. They're seeing a similar weather pattern coming back around. The thing that concerns me is if we give over the only source of water aquifer that's not tapped at the moment and it gets polluted with liquefied green ammonia, that is that aquifer written off because there is no way as an anecdote for that.
No. So can I just say the local garnet mine, so we've ended up with a new garnet mine called Australian Garnet. And their whole thing, they obviously need water to operate. Without water, they can't operate.
That's correct.
And the holes that they're digging regular holes daily to try and keep up with the lack of water. So that's just a sign of what is coming in the future. So, you know, it's a warning.
These are the red flags that got brought up when we had that discussion earlier in the year, where people are saying some people are doing the right thing and recycling the water and watching it and monitoring in a way that is being much more responsible. And then there are others that are not. So the thing is here, we already are seeing that there hasn't been accountability. And this is where the Minister for Water, Minister McGurk, should definitely be looking at why you would allow an aquifer that's the only pure water source there if we are in rough times where they're talking about climate change disaster, regardless of the catastrophic climate change they're saying is human created.
More cyclones, more rougher seas, you know, more catastrophic events.
We've got to preserve that fresh water, don't we?
That's right.
We do.
Future generations, because that's the
lifeline.
only thing we've got.
It's the lifeline of the entire community. There's no way that the community will survive and thrive if something happens to that water system. We're talking about if something happened and there was some kind of event where that got into the aquifer, the entire community of Kalbarri would have to either cart in water to survive, and that would be an ongoing event, because once it's polluted, you can't undo that damage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, that's where the common sense comes back into it, isn't it? Like, but these people can't see beyond that.
No, they can't. And this is the thing, Mick, is that they want access to water, right? And they said, how are you going to run your plant? They said, oh, no, we're going to do it off D-cell. It's like, okay, so you're going to how are you going to set up your D-cell? And they're like, oh, we're going to do it off, our solar. The solar will power it. It's like, so how do you set up all your solar panels and all your footings and everything if you don't have access to water first? If you don't have access to water, the amount of cement that's going to be installed up there for that whole project is enormous, massive ecological footprint.
Oh, they have to source water. There's no two ways. They can't do it otherwise. Like, unless they can get maybe a pipeline from, if that, you know, that was Barnett's idea, remember, to pipe water from Fitzroy, and then you know, Koori people up there went, you're not doing that, because that's, you know, that's our life's blood, you know. And so that got squashed, that idea. And then, you know, they're liable to stoop at any level to do anything they can do to make it happen. So we're quite aware of that, and we just want to keep the community aware and, you know, soften the blow, so to speak, if we can, you know, like
well, it's more than soften the blow, it's actually stop the blows, because as I see it, the government should be there supporting the community in its recovery and restructuring after that horrific cyclone, right? So we know that the cyclone caused complete devastation. Imagine what would have happened to that massive big solar panels out there.
Oh, can you imagine the turbines and the blades and all that would have been in Kalbarri? That's where they would end up. Because remember, when the cyclone comes in, it comes in, if it's coming in from up north, it's coming in on a northwest direction. So what does that tell you? That northwesterly will carry all that debris, and it was devastation as it was. We don't need more devastation, do we? You know.
Could you imagine 100-meter long blades as projectiles coming towards the town, strolling through the whole ocean?
You know, the fact was that there was not one fatality in that cyclone, which was amazing that no one died in that cyclone, because if it had gone on for a bit longer, I think that would have been a total different story. But if we'd had debris flying at us from this green hydrogen plant, Murchison green hydrogen plant, I would say there definitely would have been fatalities, you know, because that stuff would just go straight through roofs and you know, it would have been twice as horrifying as it was. I don't want to go through one again, but you know, it was scary, you know. scary for the kids.
I can't say that I've been through a cyclone. I remember Cyclone Elby, showing my age there.
That was
and
the
flooding, but we didn't get the winds like a lot of other zones did. And it's that I've heard from many people that lived up in Karratha that have been through their cyclone prone zones. I mean, we have the same thing down here. We are now a tornado alley in Bunbury in the geographic area.
Yeah.
So the thing is that they're claiming to have to save the planet by these extreme measures of putting in this industry that's intermittent. And as far as I see, it's a failing energy system. It's very old technology and it's not supported by the community. It's going to have a huge environmental impact. It's not a carbon negative at all. The amount of carbon involved in producing all of these
that's such
these
a big
industries.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But what about the other element that none of that money that that these people are saying, the people that these people are saying, the conglomerates, is going into their bank accounts. What people don't realise, their bank accounts aren't in Australia; they're overseas.
No.
So none of that money, they can't even tax that money.
No, and this is where it's a total loss for Australia as far as I see. We get to have our land destroyed and polluted, toxins, the shedding of blades, we know there's going to be leaks of the liquefied green hydrogen,
the paranoia,
ammonia. We know it's a given.
Exactly.
Historically known. There are so many papers on it. The fact that it's deadly toxic in aquatic systems, and it's right near the Murchison River. It's right near the beautiful ocean where all of that biodiversity is so vital for the area, the health of that entire region, the ecosystem, especially going down towards Abrolhos. Now, Abrolhos, if that got hit by some kind of leak, the thing is that if Abrolhos gets hit by that, we know that that is where we have major issues because that is a major spawning area for rock lobster larvae.
Oh, the whole coast is, in fact. So, yeah, they're pristine spots, of course, amazing areas, but it's the whole coast, really, that contributes to the lobster industry.
And you know what? Remember Cyclone Pancho? I don't know if you remember. Yeah. So this is how fragile this coastline is. And this is what these people don't understand, right? Is that Cyclone Pancho, what it did, it brought a hot water plume down and it only hit to the edge of near Wago, was it? Just before Wago? So, and it was 28 degrees, that water. That water, 28 to 30 degrees. It stayed that way for
whatever, but
3 weeks.
Killed all the...
and it wiped out the abalone overnight. Gone. From Steep Point all the way down to, which is a massive
amount of abalone.
Oh, it's huge. You know,
that's a natural occurrence, I guess, but
I'm just saying how fragile.
That's how fragile the whole ecosystem is, isn't it?
And I think that's the thing is that it's not taken into account that the fragility of, even though it's wild, even though it's very rustic and it's raw, the beauty there, it has a fragility to it that catches you off guard. It does. The seas are wild, the land is wild, but there's this fragility to it when it comes to the balance of things, and it only takes a few factors that's natural. You add in the compounding factors of our total coming into an encroachment and putting in industrialization into our oceans, onto areas of land that are vital for keeping and restoring biodiversity, keeping biodiversity and keeping the balance in nature. When we start messing with that, it becomes a compounded equation. And this is the thing that they talk about, all their modeling for this, that, and the other. It's like, well, you talk to locals, you talk to people that live there, and they'll tell you, oh, you've got problems if you start messing with these kinds of systems here. It becomes like a cascade effect.
Martini, isn't that obvious?
It is obvious, but communications with the locals, they just don't want to hear us.
they're not hearing us.
They're not hearing us. They're not
at all.
hearing
Not at
the
all.
destruction of the environment. The Labor and the Greens aren't hearing it. They're not hearing us. And I would say that this town would probably be
95,
maybe even 98% against this whole
for sure,
thing.
Yeah, it's probably 2 or 1%, I reckon.
A couple of people might be for it out of the whole town.
Well, all I can say is that that is a subject matter we will be touching on for sure in the coming weeks, is that information we just talked about what are the statistics on that. The thing that concerns me, though, is the fact that there are so many laws, acts. There would be biodiversity up there that would be at risk so much, and we would be willing to risk that for the sake of foreign corporations coming in to
there's no gain in it for us.
Use this as
Even if there
leverage.
That much, it's still not worth it.
Even if there was a gain to be had,
like
what are we risking?
Yeah, we'll give you an Olympic-sized pool. We'll do this. We'll give you that. And you've only got to look at Onslow as as a mining town example. And
we've got a beautiful pool, the Indian Ocean.
There you go. That's right. Blue Holes is our swimming pool.
I mean, it's a fantastic tourist. It's a fantastic tourist destination. We don't want 1 cent off those people.
No,
we don't. We want them to pack up and leave because they're not listening to us. Our objections to the whole thing.
They smile to our faces and tell us everything that okay, yeah, and then they turn around and go, "Oh, geez, I'd love to come down to the pub and have a beer with you." It's like what? Before,
when we had the
meeting,
mingle, but we had that meeting with the professional fishermen with Hodge Murchison. I don't like them taking that name Murchison either.
No, I don't.
That's terrible, isn't it?
Well, that's Callum. That's
a disgrace.
I've got to be honest. That's a thing that Copenhagen Energy have done also. Lewin offshore, and that's a great insult as far as I'm concerned. I don't know how the federal government or this West Australian government allowed them to use such a name as Lewin Energy when it indicates that the Lewin offshore is somehow good for the Lewin current and the natural systems and everything that exists out there.
For you.
Yeah.
The greenwashing.
So
the greenwashing
I think,
of this
again,
whole country.
It's hypocrisy is what it is.
The green
biggest hypocrisy ever, I reckon.
Yeah.
So you guys are members of Keep Kalbarri Beautiful. We have had many conversations, and what I'd really like to see is that if more people would like to come on to find out about what's going on with you guys, what they can get involved with, how they can support you more in pushing back against what I call the cluster F at Kalbarri, because it's not just one green renewable that you're trying to stop. You have offshore wind turbines that threaten the marine system. We have electromagnetic fields that interfere with rock lobster and sessile invertebrates.
That's huge because that could just wipe out our crayfish industry, the lobster industry, the offshore wind turbines, because of that electromagnetic thing going on underwater. It's been documented and well known that the lobsters don't like it at all.
So will the state government compensate these fishermen?
I don't think it's about compensation. What will happen is that the licenses would probably, I would suspect they'll just disappear, because when you're talking about the same agenda for the marine parks, what they're wanting to do is put in marine parks to lock out everyday people, but they're going to put aquaculture in there. So that's their agenda, is to have aquaculture instead of beautiful, fresh, wild stock that is the most healthy in Australia.
Yeah, that is just
one of the most sustainable principles in Australia.
Full of antibiotics and
destroy the whole oceans. We had a meeting with the hydrogen mob at here with a professional fisherman, and we made it clear that the whole lot of us did not want them here, did not want them to go ahead with this whole thing. yet they just keep
They just
going
laugh in their
ahead.
faces.
Yeah, it's like
Oh,
water off a duck's back.
so his comment was what was his name that was there? That wasn't Shohan, was it? It was the other one. But anyway, it was one of the conglomerates. He said, "Oh, so I suppose we're not going to get any crayfish after this, then I suppose."
God.
You know.
Well, all I can say is that there's so many other renewables that are really starting to fall over. You know, guys know that Ocean X and Equinor have pulled out of their project. Yeah, they're offshore that they have over in the Illawarra, and it was cited that it was so much negativity or pushback from the community, which means that there was no social license. So we're going to keep harping on about that.
That's
whole lot, CIP, Lewin Current Crude, Copenhagen Energy, the whole lot of you, Equinor, Skyborn, listen to the people, because you do not have social license, and we will keep making sure you know that the people of Australia are not giving you that social license.
Well, they've a lot of them have destroyed their own homes, like their own areas, countries, so to speak. They've figured it out; it doesn't work, this green energy, and they go into nuclear. Quite seems to be the case.
Or revert to coal again, like China is doing, and many other nations.
I think some sort of fusion will come out before then.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
then
for sure.
It's just a matter of what was I going to say?
Atomic fusion and all that sort of stuff's really coming alive now. So it's not. I don't think
there's a lot of alternatives that have not been made available, and that's the thing that we really need to go into, because when we know this political agenda and it's tied up to money and funding, and we know that that's the only thought, so it's like going forward with complete blinkers on and not putting in any regard or perspective or any balanced view on the long-term effects. That's when we have real problems.
Yeah, meantime, our government's offering them big incentives to come here and destroy our country, our waters.
Yeah, not only the government, you've got people like Callum offering them land for free. You know, pasture land.
That's disturbing. Look, all I know, guys, is that
of course.
All I can say is that I have been passionate about supporting Keep Kalbarri Beautiful and stopping the insanity of these green renewables for you up there for a long time now. And I know that many people on the East Coast have been part of supporting you. I would like to see more Australians start to dive into this and start to see that if we allow our beautiful tourist and coastal communities that are the backbone of this nation, if we let them fall because they are isolated and they don't have the members in the community to push back as hard as like the city, if they put these down at City Beach, we know that this would be squashed in a heartbeat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not only Kalbarri, it's Australia wide, or it's not only Geograph Bay. And I've got to thank you so much, Martine, and say keep Geograph Bay, save Geograph, our beautiful beloved Geograph Bay.
Save our beloved Geograph Bay.
And the team on the stop the
turbines.
The Marine Park, Southern Marine Park. You know, we're all connected here, and even on the East Coast, where you got Port Stephens or wherever it is, that trying to build these offshore wind turbines and wind farms, solar farms, you name it. They're just going in and destroying our livelihoods and our way of life. And
it's our culture.
Environment, our culture.
Yeah. Well, guys, all I can say is keep strong. We are going to win this. I have no doubt. We don't have social license for this. Take note, you failing green renewables. Australia is kicking back. Thank you so much, Mick and Sharky. God bless you both.
No worries.
Thank you so
much. Keep strong. We're in this together, and stay tuned for further information coming about what's going on at Kalbarri from the community and statistics coming up in the next couple of weeks. Thank you so much. This has been Martini's Ego Bite.
And
thanks,
yeah,
Martini.